Good evening, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving Eve. I had a string of videos lined up for you guys for this special edition. And this evening, what we're talking about is Trende Aragua, which is a Venezuelan gang that has become nationwide throughout the US, has been causing mass hysteria. Now, I'm working off my tablet, so please excuse me. I have a list of things for you guys to essentially look at. And what I'm going to try to do here is play it from my phone. If you guys can just bear with me in this special edition, because we're not going to just be talking about news in general like we usually do. This is essentially pinpointed at this particular gang because they has been running amok in America, and they have by far become the biggest problem that our people have seen. Good evening, Volvo. So this is going to be more personal than it will be as far as the news is concerned. So bear with me here. I'm just trying to get everything set up for you guys. I hate to be late, so I came on. But nonetheless, we're going to get into this news piece. So please excuse me as I'm trying to buy time. And I'm gonna play it from my phone, which is also like a tablet. And again, I'm away for the holidays. I know I saw you guys early this morning. So I had to travel quite a distance so I can get here in time and give you guys this right here. So please bear with me. I'm almost there. We're going to start this off because I do have a bit of content that I do want to share with you guys. So if you can just please be patient. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel as well. Support the channel with your subscription. Not as far as paying anything, but yeah. All right. So let's get into it. I want to get into the first video here. And I want to make you guys vastly aware of what's
the news covering Fairfax County now, where suspected members of a violent Venezuelan gang considered more powerful than police in South America have reportedly arrived. Our Tom Rousey investigated and finds out what they're accused of already doing here in Tyson's.
Back in summer 2023, three men allegedly came here to the Tyson's Galleria and committed grand larceny by stealing from some of the high-end stores. Now, that wouldn't normally make the news, but it is now making the news because of what we've recently learned about those three suspects and their alleged ties to a violent Venezuelan gang. According to court records, these three men in their 20s came down from New York and were captured by Fairfax County Police with $9,000 of stolen merchandise in their car. Court records list a witness at the Neiman Marcus at the Tyson's Galleria, as well as another witness at the Gucci store at that same high-end mall. Those witnesses were there as the men allegedly committed grand larceny. Tuesday, Fairfax County Police Chief Kevin Davis.
So I don't know if you guys are aware that we have essentially a gang problem here in the United States of America. And the major problem that we have here is a gang that is from Venezuelan origin, believe it or not. And again, the reason why this is so important for Americans as well as Black Americans, and I'm gonna get to that very quickly here because I think it needs to be really said here. And I'm setting up the second video for you guys. Again, if we're speaking to Black America, it's been ever since, it's been decades. We've been painted as the face of crime in the country, from Hollywood to mainstream media. We're always plastered on the American screen. And here's the thing. A lot of Black Americans have white friends, Hispanic friends, Asian friends, and they know that they're great Black Americans just as well. There's criminals in white society and Asian society. There's criminals in every class. But when you paint a narrative and you use stereotypical tropes to propagate a certain narrative, then that's what the majority of the masses are going to think. Because Black Americans, we've been painted as the face of crime in this country. They highlight our communities, blow up our struggles, and sell fear about us to the masses. But here's the truth. The media won't tell you that only 2% of Black Americans are responsible for the violent crimes. Yeah, 2%. So why are we scapegoated into believing that over 50% of Black Americans are part of the criminal class? Now, meanwhile, they're busy demonizing us. There's a much bigger threat creeping into the country, a threat that isn't Black, but is wreaking havoc coast to coast. I'm talking about Venezuela's deadliest export, Trende Riaraga. This isn't just a gang, folks. It's a full-blown criminal empire spreading like wildfire across the United States. They got ties to human trafficking, drug smuggling, extortion, and straight-up assassinations. And guess what? They didn't get here by swimming. They exploited a broken immigration system under the Democrats, under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and policies that leave all Americans, Black, white, brown, Asian, and otherwise vulnerable. So let me give you the rundown. Trende Aragua, or TDA, we'll start stating that TDA, started in Venezuela, but has now gone international, expanding into Colombia, Peru, Mexico, before crossing to the US. These folks just don't play dirty. They run into the whole game in cities like Houston, Atlanta, North Dakota, South Dakota, Colorado, you name it, even Los Angeles. Reports are coming in that they're setting up shop, and they don't get it twisted. This is just not another street gang. These guys operate like a paramilitary organization with tactics so ruthless they make some of America's homegrown gangs look amateur. And matter of fact, Governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, have labeled Trende Aragua, or TDA, as a terrorist gang, as a terrorist group, because they're a foreign power. So again, I want to show you again another video here, if you guys will bear with me as I get here, because I believe this is very, very important. Very important. Okay.
Tuesday.
Give me 1 second. Very important that you guys see this. Okay. And this is not to fearmonger anyone. This is not to do any of the sort, but to give you guys awareness and information, because they're spreading across the US. They're in the West Coast, the Midwest, as well as the East Coast. So this is very important.
New tonight, there is growing concern among the NYPD over Venezuelan gang activity across the city. Police believe some gang members are recruiting children living in migrant shelters. As Jennifer Bisram reports, the gang has blended in with asylum seekers who began arriving here in 2022.
Once they commit their crimes, they go back to the migrant community where they assimilate themselves with people that are actually here obeying the laws.
The NYPD is cracking down on Trende Aragua, the Venezuelan gang they say is living in the shelter system and recruiting children.
We have 39 members of TDA that have been identified, and we have an additional 4 members that have been identified of a subgroup called the Little Devils of 42nd Street. Yeah, those are much younger kids.
And those are just the members police have been able to identify.
We have no fingerprints on file for them. We have no photographs on file for them. We have no prior criminal history on them. They swap out their IDs. We have no way of tracking or knowing who they are when they enter the country.
The NYPD's chief of detectives says undocumented criminals as young as 11 years old are carrying out retail robberies and committing crimes on scooters, snatching people's jewelry, watches, and cell phones at gunpoint and knife point. Over 300 incidents last year, more than 800 so far this year. They've brazenly shot at police officers too.
When we do make arrests and we're able to charge them on 4, 5, 6 incidents, when they go before a judge in New York City and their arrest record is run, they show no prior criminal history. They're released on their own recognizance. They're not offered bail, and they're released back into the public.
Some migrant mothers we spoke to say they fear their boys will be forced into the world of crime. People have warned us to be careful with the child because they are recruiting younger children. It worries.
So this gang that's organic to Venezuela is now in America. And this is what Americans have been saying for quite some time, that these other countries in Central America mostly have been emptying out of their jails and sending their most heinous and harshest criminals to America. So it's imperative that we understand that while Joe Biden and Kamala Harris was in office, these were crimes against America, family. They were crimes against America because they let the most deadliest people inside this country. And they first dropped them off into Black communities. And then they started to spread across the entire U.S. Okay, not just the Black community, but they started to drop them off and have them to be adjacent to white, Asian, as well as Hispanic Americans. And don't forget, these people are illegally in the country. So when we look at these things, we have to understand that this wasn't an accident. This wasn't laws and loopholes. These are actual things that they allow to happen. But here's the kicker: instead of focusing on the real threat, America is stuck in a loop of blaming black folks for everything wrong in this country. And let's be real, every single demographic in America, every single race in America, when it comes to criminality, when it comes to violence, has a part of it. And it's not that we have more part, it's the part that is more portrayed. What is the narrative? Because here's the thing: I have white friends, I've had Hispanic friends, I have Asian friends. And when you speak into these other people, you have to understand that they have this subconscious bias that was given to them, that was propagated on them, that they have been subject to. So essentially, when they meet quote unquote good black folk, which a lot of us are, their mind about the stereotypical things they've been taught has changed. And it's not that it should be your mission to go out and teach other races that black folk are good people. A lot of people already know that black folk are good, and that this is definitely stereotypical things that have been happening for quite some time now. Politicians scream about Chicago and Baltimore, while Venezuelan terrorist gangs like TDA is running human trafficking rings with children out of Texas and Arizona and New Mexico, and now in Colorado and Utah and South Dakota and North Dakota. It's all over the place. They talk about gang violence in Detroit, but TDA is smuggling enough fentanyl into the country to kill millions of Americans. This ain't just a black problem, okay? This is an American problem, and ignoring it is putting all of us at risk. Here's my question for the mass media. Here's my question for the politicians and even everyday Americans. Why is it so easy to criminalize one group of people when we have a threat like TDA comes knocking? We get silenced. The same system that over polices black community and fills prisons with our people is the same system letting these international terrorist criminal gangs right through the cracks. And this should be an American issue, because here's the thing: black Americans, foundational black Americans, people who are descendants of slavery, are just as American or more so than those people who settle and are native to the country and all. So we have to look at that as a whole. When I see little video clips of someone who is ignorant of the fact that black Americans who have lineage in this country say, go back to your country. Well, essentially, if we're going to go back to our country, which this is our country, America is our country, then maybe you should go back to your country as well. That's how that works. But when a threat like TDA comes knocking, what happens? Now we see the things that we've been trying to tell you. There's more harsh criminals in America that have been committing a lot of these crimes. But again, when you have 1 or 2% of a certain demographic that really paints a picture that goes with the narrative that have already been set for hundreds of years, then people are more likely to believe that than anything else. Where's the national discussion, or is it only a problem when it's us? It's time for us to essentially wake up and shift the conversation. Let me show you this next video here.
People are cold, they're calculated, and they're about the money.
In Operation Crime and Justice, a member of the violent Venezuelan gang, TDA, now operating in Tennessee, charged in connection with a human trafficking operation in Chattanooga.
Fox 17 News' Kylie Walker joining us live from the state capitol with more on Tren de Agua and the governor's reaction.
And by the way, they said that this gang, Tren de Agua, is in Tennessee. If you guys are not familiar, or you guys not aware rather, that Tennessee is the home place of the KKK. Where's the KKK when you need them? Yeah. I said it. Where's the KKK when you need them? Because the KKK should be on these people's back. These are not white people, and they're infiltrating Tennessee, and they're trafficking drugs, humans, and all other sorts of illegal weaponry. Where's the KKK?
Into this arrest, Kylie.
Earlier this month, the TBI warned of the growing TDA gang in major Tennessee cities. So after this arrest, I wanted to dig more into the potential impacts this could have on Nashville. The man arrested in Chattanooga is Adelvis Rodriguez Carmona. He's a known member of Trende Aragua with a history of violent crimes in Chicago and New York City.
TBI has determined and discovered and has enough intelligence to know where these folks are operating and are beginning to make arrests. We hope that they can finish that job.
Governor Lee believes there will be more positive changes with a new administration next year. In the meantime, the TBI has asked for more money to tackle these issues in 2025. Any update on the budget request?
We'll be processing budget requests really over the next 6 weeks before the budget is due, but we'll look hard at TBI's requests.
On November 15th, the TBI told Fox News that TDA was operating in Knoxville, Memphis, Chattanooga, and Nashville, but provided little detail. Since then, I've contacted the TBI multiple times requesting more information on arrests and specifics on...
So basically, TDA, this Venezuelan terrorist gang, and again, that's what Greg Abbott of Texas have labeled them. They've been operating all over the major cities of Tennessee. And that's just one state out of many that this gang has been operating out of. And there's what they're stating now is there's over 50,000 of Venezuelans, almost 100,000. I'm not stating that all Venezuelans that come to America are part of TDA. I'm not stating that, but they're stating anywhere from 25 to 50,000 of this gang is here in America. Because don't forget, this is an international gang. They're in Venezuela, they're in Colombia, they're in Peru, they're in Mexico, and in the U.S. as well. Now, it says name 1, 2, 3, 4 says, I wonder how white militias are going to manage the danger that is coming to their communities. Now, here's a problem with that statement. This is not a white problem. This is not a black problem. This is an American problem. So no matter what race you are, if you are American, if you are a citizen, and because of the legal immigration that the Democrats under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have started, they are part of the sole cause of all of this illegal activity and these illegal people, violent people inside of the country. And I said this in another broadcast that, family, listen, if Donald Trump, president-elect, has to use the National Guard or federal troops to eradicate terrorist foreign gangs from this country, then I approve of that. I do not approve those who are illegally in the country. Listen to what I'm stating. Those who are illegally in the country but are not committing other crimes, because they already committed the first crime of trespassing inside of another country. That's one thing that could somewhat, even though it's a criminal offense, I look at it somewhat civil. If they came over here either for a truly asylum seekers where they're fearing prosecution from their homeland, or they are here for economic opportunities. Okay, they're not here to commit crimes and start drug trafficking rings or prostitution rings. So I do look at it differently. Okay, but we have to look at the way they've been looking at this thing for quite some time, because it's really time to wake up and shift the conversation, because Black Americans are not the face of crime in this country. Even though we've been painted and made this for a very long time, we're the face of resilience, the face of survival, and the face of progress. Meanwhile, the real criminal threats like TDA are infiltrating our neighborhoods and endangering all of us. So if America wants to solve this crime problem, it needs to look at the bigger picture and not just the black one. So here's my call to action. Don't let them distract you. Don't let mass media, don't let certain political figures distract the American people of what the real problem in America. And if you don't believe that illegal immigration kind of spins and metamorphosizes and transforms into all these different issues, then look at where the crime has actually come from. First, you come over into the country illegally, and then you're establishing or reconnecting illegal drug trades and human trafficking trades and illegal gun trades and all these other things. They have military grade weapons. How they're getting that over into this country? These are some of the things that we need to look at. These are some of the things that we really need to look at because they are infiltrating our neighborhoods and our community and endangering all Americans. So if America wants to solve its crime problem, it needs to look at the total picture. So again, this is an American problem, and it's going to take all of us who are legally in the country to fix it. And I think the first step was the American people has spoken loud and proud that they want a president who's going to come and eradicate illegal criminals that are in the country. And we already know the other things that Donald Trump said he was going to do. And here's the thing: you don't have to be a Donald Trump supporter. You don't have to be a Joe Biden / Kamala Harris supporter. You should be a supporter of America because you love this country. You love this country, whether it has helped your family to be better or you have high hopes of what you can do in America, whatever it be. If you love this country, then you totally understand what I'm getting at. So I have one more video for you guys. Okay, let me read this one comment before I start this video. If you guys have any comments, please leave it in the chat. I'm going to cover that this evening as we're live here. Also, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Name 1, 2, 3, 4 states that the militias are forever training for events that are potentially a threat to their communities. They're going to be blindsided because these people are not Black. They focus too much on us. That makes a lot of sense. All right, let's get into this last video.
Thank you for watching. Cindy will join us later. The TBI says one known member of the Venezuelan gang Trende Aragua was arrested in Chattanooga last week. Around the same time, local police officials said there was no evidence that the gang was operating in our area. Dallas Payton joins us live with the story. Dallas?
Hey, David, we learned that Deadliest Rodriguez Carmona was arrested in a human trafficking operation and that he is a known gang member of Trende Aragua. Now, the TBI discovered TDA about 2 years ago in Middle Tennessee, and some people were arrested and charged in that case, and the rest fled now. Some time later, the TDA is starting to pop back up in Tennessee. On November 18th, 4 people were arrested. Deadliest Rodriguez Carmona was the only male arrested and is a known gang member of TDA. He's wanted for violent crimes in Chicago and New York City. Last week, Local 3 was told by the Hampton County Sheriff's Office and Chattanooga Police Department that there were no known TDA gang members in this area. Sheriff Austin Garrett explains that's because the gang is hard to track.
They settle in places where they feel comfortable. And we're not going to let them feel comfortable here. Our intention is to disrupt that and to ensure that they keep moving. They may be in Atlanta tonight, and the next night they may be here in Hamilton County in a hotel, and the next night in Kentucky.
Sheriff Garrett says the TDA moves around to avoid law enforcement. TVA Director David Roush says TDA targets areas based on demand.
Large cities, a lot of people, a lot of demand for criminal activity. Right? A lot of demand for drugs, a lot of demand for prostitution. All of that exists in our largest cities.
Roush says TDA uses women from Venezuela who have been abducted and smuggled into the U.S. While other TDA gang members have been arrested in Knox County and Shelby County, Roush says there is no signs that the gang is based in Tennessee.
This isn't a gang that's come in and taken over and is a violent respite in any of our cities to where they've come in and they've taken over and they're doing what you see in the videos that have been played. They're not doing that at this point, right? And so our job is to make sure they don't get to that point.
TBI says there is no signs that TDA is working with local gangs either, and law enforcement wants to keep it that way.
We don't want to see that, right? And it's always a concern, regardless of what the gang is. We've seen the work of the cartels in the drug business, of how they have expanded their networks through local gangs, and then how they actually then turn the table on it and come in and take control.
And now the TBI says that this gang typically works out of hotels near major interstates. Now Rodriguez Carmona is being held in the Hamilton County Jail on a $125,000 bond. Reporting live in Hamilton County for Local 3 News, I'm Dallas Payton.
Okay, so what's important about a lot of these newscasts, and they're coming out of different states of this Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua. And what's important about this is that they are now nationwide in America. They're from LA to New York and all the states. I won't, not all 50 states, but right now the reports are stating that they're operating in anywhere from 16 to 18 states. And they keep calling TDA a gang. TDA is not a gang, because when you think about a gang, you think about anywhere from probably 20 to maybe 200 people at the largest when it comes to a gang. Look up the term gang. This group, this mafia, this cartel is not a gang. They're organized. Okay. They have support from their country through the lines of Mexico. So I wonder how they're operating out of Venezuela, and they have to essentially maybe pay some taxes to the cartels in Mexico. But this is very complex. So I think we are downplaying these so-called gangs, and that's why I believe Governor Greg Abbott have labeled them a terrorist group, which I concur. This is a terrorist group, because anytime that when they state that you are operating, okay, when you are operating in 16 states. Now, don't get me wrong. When we look at different gangs in America, we look at the one percenters, we look at Hell's Angels, we look at the Bloods and Crips. They operate out of different states as well. But this particular cartel, this particular mafioso group, they are operating faster, more connected, and more treacherous than any of these other gangs. Believe it or not, black gangs, white gangs, they have codes. These gangs here don't have codes. If you get in their way, they will get rid of you. Okay. This is not an organic, homegrown gang, quote unquote, terrorist group. This is from another country. So they have no crawls. They have no respect of you being American, your neighborhood, or anything like that. So this is very different, because this is the same cartel. Okay. I know we so used to calling them TDA gang, but this same cartel was running the prison in Venezuela, and then all of them left. Like, how? And this, when you start hearing those reports that these Central American countries are literally emptying out of their jails. Go to America. America is the land of milk and honey. You can go and terrorize them, because we have nothing left here in Venezuela. So there you have it. This is a special edition. I just wanted to speak about TDA because I think that the American people really need to understand the gravity and the seriousness of this group. And that not that you should be on high alert, but that you should be very, very aware of a gang that's infiltrating nearly half the states in the U.S. And I've heard reports they are in North and South Dakota. They are in Colorado. I heard reports they have small little cell groups in Montana. And these are states where the populations are very low. So when they come in with fentanyl and all these other illegal drugs, it's devastating to the community because their populations are not as high. So look for those stories for yourselves. Don't take my word for it. But I thank you guys for joining me here this evening. Again, if you're new to Black Logic, please hit the subscribe button. I thank you all for joining me this evening. You guys have a good night. Happy Thanksgiving.